God we will follow.
Hello and welcome to Trinity Talk Live, water cooler conversation from a Christian perspective. I am Ken Coughlin. Welcome to April. As some of you who've been regular viewers of the show will know, every month we've been trying to spend at least one show featuring one of the ministry teams here at Trinity, both for people who might be watching the show who are members here at Trinity or worship with us here at Trinity. You can understand a little bit more about how things operate here. And even for those of you that don't, hopefully we can give you some insight about how we do things, run things around here in the various different teams that might give you some ideas about your church as well. And the month of April is the month for lay ministry. So we have 5 people. I thank you very much. I got to say, kudos to lay ministry. No one's done this except fellowship. How many did fellowship have? Just hold up a number of fingers. Come on. 7. Sorry, they got you beat, but still pretty good. I mean, I think you guys finished second place so far this year. Most I've been lucky to get 1 or 2. So I appreciate you coming here. So we're going to talk a little bit about lay ministry, what it is, what we do here with it, and how important it is. But for starters, let's start out by introducing everybody. We're going to start all the way down to the end with the familiar face on the panel. Say who you are and give me one fun thing about yourself.
Sure. I'm Mark Koger. I'm the operations director here at Trinity, and I've got the honor to work with these great people and everything that makes worship happen here on Sundays.
3 times in a row, job title stayed the same.
Stayed the same. It's a record.
Hi, I'm Kathy Koger. I'm Mark's wife. We've been at Trinity for about 25 years, and over those years, I've had several different roles, but right now I'm a co-director of lay ministry with John.
Speaking of John.
Hi, I'm John Wilhelm. I've been here since about 2000, I believe. I'm a co-director of lay ministry, and my partner in crime is Kathy over here.
So basically you had nothing original to say, so you just took everything Kathy said and just flipped it around.
Well, that's true because you went to her first.
Well, I trust her more.
True.
So, next.
Hi, I'm Cindy Letts, and I've been at Trinity for about 16 years, and I'm a coordinator at the Altar Guild.
And Cindy also does our costumes for the Passion Play. How many years have you been doing that now?
A lot. I think I lost.
And if anybody knows the Passion Play, it's a large cast, and so it's a lot, and she keeps it all organized. She knows who's got what costume. She yells at me if I give one out without her knowing about it. So she's awesome at that. Thank you for that. That's on my mind because Passion Play coming up in just a few weeks. Yep. So, hey, come to Trinity. See the Passion of our Lord. It's a great show. And last but not least.
I'm Dave Sofsky. We have been here since 1979, 40 years, and I assist the deacons in coordinating their schedules, and that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Well, why don't we start out, we're talking about lay ministry, let's start out with a general and the obvious question. I know I mentioned before we went on camera that a lot of people, when you hear certain teams we have here, or you hear about the Evangelism team, you hear men's ministry, you hear women's ministry, you hear music ministry. I mean, all of those, I think most people, it's safe to say, have a general idea of what would fall under those ministries just by hearing the name. All right. I don't know if it's as common for people to understand what falls under the umbrella of lay ministry and what that actually includes. So let me just throw it out there to the panel for starters. Does somebody tell me what is lay ministry if you had to describe it generally?
Well, lay ministry, if you want to go, Kathy?
Go ahead.
Lay ministry is anything, so when you walk through those sanctuary doors, that is part of lay ministry. So we're talking.
The doors are part of lay ministry.
When you walk through those doors, anything inside those doors is part of lay ministry. You have the deacons, you have ushers, you have parking lot attendants, you have greeters. The list goes on and on and on. We have co-directors for every one of those. So when you see a deacon walking up here, getting ready to do communion, that's part of lay ministry. When you walk through the door, someone says good morning. That's part of lay ministry. And it's quite a few, it's a big cast, actually.
John, you mentioned something about like 200 people a weekend participate?
Every weekend, from Saturday night to Sunday, there are 211 volunteers that is part of lay ministry. And that's what it takes every weekend to get this thing running.
Well, and I want to be clear, and we're going to talk about, in a minute, we'll go into more specifically about what some of those roles are, those volunteer roles that are needed. And obviously the number you're going to need is going to vary depending upon the size church that you've got. Here at Trinity, we have a pretty good sized church, not a mega church. There's an official definition for that. We do not meet that. I had somebody come up to me one time and just talk about, Trinity being a mega church. Like, well, no, it's not a mega church, but we're a good sized church. We've got 3 services, 1 Saturday night, 2 Sunday morning services. So that in of itself is going to require an awful lot of people.
Part about lay ministry is too, 99% of everyone in lay ministry that works for lay ministry are volunteers. So it takes a lot of people to run that lay ministry for this size church. Takes quite a few people.
Well, and I want to go into some of those roles specifically, so people kind of understand. Wow, that 211 people. That sounds like a lot of people. Where do you come up with that number? So let's break down some of these categories. And I want to start with one that one of you all mentioned. I can't remember who it was now. Somebody mentioned deacons. All right, and I want that is a term that obviously it's a biblically based term. That might be familiar to a lot of people, but also depending on your denominational history or affiliation, that term has come to have different meanings. So first of all, what does deacon mean? I'm going to throw this one to Dave because he's our deacon specialist. What in the Lutheran tradition, what do we mean by a deacon?
The term deacon at Trinity, at least, is in the traditional sense of the book of Acts in Jerusalem. The first deacons were commissioned to assist the pastors. That is what we do, assist the pastors in providing the meals. That's what the deacons do. They assist the pastors. And really, the entire lay ministry team is commissioned to assist the pastors in whatever we do.
So let me ask you this then, logistically speaking now, okay, what goes into that? I mean, a lot of people, you come in for communion, the bread and the wine are just there, but obviously they're not just there. So what logistically goes into helping the pastor when it comes to that?
Every week, we have a team coming in either Friday or Saturday to set up. They set up the communion cups, they set up the bread, the wafers, and prepare everything for both Saturday night and Sunday morning services. It's kept back in the sacristy and brought out as the congregation comes in for their services.
And then what about after the service?
And then after the service, of course, we have to clean it all up, put things away, and store it for the next week.
Clean it all down, although we do use generally, not always, but we generally use the little disposable plastic cups. You don't have to wash a bunch of wine cups.
Correct.
Wine
Yes,
glasses,
they
so.
are disposable. Thank heavens.
So what else? Somebody else just chime up, and maybe whatever, you can talk about whatever your specialty is within lay ministry. But what other types of things go into lay ministry?
We have the ushers. Every service, we have ushers that open the doors for you. You hand you bulletins when you come in. When the deacons do come up and do communion, the ushers are ones that release people to come up to do communion. On Saturday nights, we have maybe 2 or 3 ushers. You don't need many Saturday night, but on Sundays you need quite a few ushers. The 9:27 service, we can go with 4 ushers, but we try to do a little more. But the 11 o'clock service, it's always 6 to 8 ushers. We have people in the balcony. We have people down here. So ushers is another part of the lay ministry. And I oversee the ushers. I'm the head usher.
Let me ask you about that. And I'm going to kind of lump greeters into the same category. I know you didn't mention that, but the ushers and the greeters. I'm thinking your narthex people. The first, again, I don't know how many, there might be people watching that don't use that terminology. Narthex is basically the church lobby, okay, that you come into. I want to talk about that from a I don't want to say a theological perspective, but the importance of those roles. I mean, because let's face it, you could just have the bulletin sitting on a table. All right, people could open their own door, and come in. Why is that important? In other words, if somebody is thinking about, I can visualize somebody thinking, well, I'm just an usher. I'm just a greeter. I'm just, attaching that term to it. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think people really appreciate how important those roles are. So I'm curious for the insights of this team. Why are those roles important?
With the usher, I mean, when you walk in the door, we have the doors open. We have bulletins, handing you bulletins. But inside those bulletins, it gives you a synopsis of what's going to be going on for that service. If you walk in here and there's no usher, you just walk in. You don't want to pick up a bulletin. You're just coming in and you have no clue what's really going to happen.
But also the first person you see, the first person that greets you, and if you don't know where to go, like if you have children that you have to take to Sunday school, they can show you where that is. If you have to use the restroom.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's important also.
Yeah, there's the face of the church for the first time for a guest. So it's important to not just be handing out a bulletin, but you're the face of our congregation at that moment. So it's important to be welcoming and encourage people to be able to participate in worship.
And we do say hi to everyone we try to say hi to everyone that walks through that door. And I think every service we always have someone asking us a question, and we always have an answer somewhere. I mean, really, if I don't know it, I ask somebody else. We normally go to Mark or Terry or people like that.
Sorry, do you want to say something, Dave? Or are you just nodding in agreement?
Just nodding in agreement.
All right. Yeah, and I think that's important that people understand that like you said, Mark, these are the kind of the face of the church, the first thing people are seeing. And so even for when we do have ushers, do you guys have like usher training? Do people, when they want to be an usher, do they go through some kind of training?
Yes, we do. I just had a couple of new ushers come on. One is a young gentleman, and I put him on a team that I thought was so very easygoing, and he actually enjoyed it. And they were helping him, and he can ask anybody, and everybody helps everybody.
Well, that's good that it's also a team that can work together, because I do think that if you're going to be in one of these roles that is, like you say, the face of the church, the first person you see, Cindy, like when you come in, then it's helpful to know a little bit about how things are run here. And, and this is true whether it's a big church like Trinity or a smaller church. Even you can have the smallest church in the world, and somebody's not going to know if you have childcare or how that's handled, and they might want to know, well, do the kids, here's my 3-year-old. Does my 3-year-old do you have a nursery, or do they get pulled out, or do they stay for the whole worship service? What's the tradition here? And so,
Even the quiet room.
And yeah.
People don't know where the quiet room is, and the ushers tell them, they show them where the quiet room is. We take them down there.
Right, and so to know what's available, and we're speaking a lot here about parents with kids, but it goes even beyond that. I think, whether it be someone, maybe there's an event after church in your fellowship hall. Where's the fellowship hall? And so there's a certain, we are commanded to be welcoming, to welcome people into the church. And I think one measure of a church and how well you're living that out. And one way we can evaluate ourselves as the Christian church is how well are we living that out. If somebody were to come here and they leave, we would talk to them kind of like an exit interview. How welcome did you feel when you came here? So anyway, so that's a more important role than I think a lot of people take into account. What else? I'm sorry, you want to go ahead?
Well, even before they get to the doors, we have the parking lot attendants who catch them in the parking lot and can guide senior citizens who need or anyone who needs a handicap spot to the handicap spots. We also have the youth help us sometimes with umbrellas. When it's raining. They'll come out to the cars and help people come in to the church with the umbrellas so they are safely in.
I want to focus on that for a second, because that's another, like I said, every now and then I don't want to say every now and then, but we may have people watching that aren't necessarily from Trinity, and that's something that we instituted about a year ago or so? I'm trying to remember what it was.
Roughly about a year ago.
They have a name for themselves. I can't remember what they call themselves.
Water Brigade, what's it called, John?
The umbrella crew?
Yeah,
The umbrella crew.
Yeah.
I think it's
Stormtroopers.
Stormtrooper. Thank you. Yes, I thought the umbrella crew, but yeah.
Yeah, the stormtroopers. I knew it was something
Yes.
that
Catchy.
teens would.
And it's been a great idea. I mean, it's working
what
well.
we basically taken our youth groups,
Yep.
and then when it's clear that not weather-wise clear, but when it's apparent that the weather is not going to be good on the day, that they get here early, and we have a whole slew of umbrellas, and they actually go out and meet people at their cars with umbrellas and walk them into the church with these big giant umbrellas.
Right.
Doesn't always work when it's really windy though too. We've only lost a couple of the teens, but no, we carried away like Mary Poppins. No, but that's a really neat idea. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback since they started.
And the
doing it.
congregation's getting to know the kids too.
Right.
Because they're out there and they get to see them,
Well,
they
that's
talk
why
to them.
it's a cool dual purpose kind of activity, because it's not just, yes, you're serving the purpose of helping people get in and keeping them dry, but you're right, it's connecting the youth with the not youth members of the congregation.
Multi-generational.
So Dave said, "There's like, how is he going to get out of this one?" What's he gonna say?
The old people.
I didn't say it.
I like Mark's word better.
Multi-generational.
Multi-generational.
But there's 2 services and then they're all different.
That's
you
true.
know.
That's true. So anyway, that's just one thing. I'm glad you mentioned. It's one thing that falls under it. So what else?
Something else I think maybe Cindy can share with us about the altar
Throwing you under
guild.
the bus, Cindy.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
The altar guild. It's they do so much in preparing the sanctuary at different seasons, and it's just wonderful to see the changes that take place in flowers and the altar arrangements. And but Cindy heads that team.
Well, our team, I think we're like the people that do it behind the scenes, because you leave one Sunday and it looks one way, and then you come back and it looks different. So we're the little mice that do all the behind the scene kind of things. Like we decorate, we sharpen pencils, we stock the pews, we change out the banners. Now that we have a fancy new tool.
But that's the kind of thing that I really wanted to kind of highlight in this program, because those are the things that people don't think of. Whether if you've got a kid, we have like these little kiddie scribble cards that are in there, and every Sunday your kid scribbles on a scribble card, and yet there always seems to be a scribble card there next week. I got news for you. We don't have magically replacing scribble cards. There are people that come in and do that. And you're right, the altar guild, the altar decorations. The altar guild, inadvertently, I guess, is also largely responsible for our Trinity Talk Live set, because these plants, these flowers, even these banners, all belong to the altar guild. Don't know if I actually asked to borrow them, but we put them back when we're done with them. So yeah, that's one of those things that just happens behind the scenes.
I asked.
She takes care of me.
I mean, even the poinsettias, you guys do all the poinsettias, the balloons we see in here.
The
Altar
Easter
Guild,
flowers.
everything Easter flower. Altar Guild is a big part of the lay ministry. Big part.
Good.
That's for sure.
And I guess Ken and the viewers probably noticed this by now, but there's a common theme that runs through lay ministry. It's lay people working and serving other members of the congregation as well as God through worship. They're a big part of the worship service each week. If it wasn't for lay ministry, worship service would not be what it is,
absolutely
including the
correct.
music. We don't even have the music part of it here today, because I know Ryan has his own month of focus for music.
But music is part of lay ministry.
Music is part of lay ministry. And another ministry I like to add, which is growing very quickly, that we're really proud of, is our heart ministry. Really helping those in need health-wise, spiritual-wise. They're there to help those who need that.
So what does heart ministry do exactly? We talked about it a few times on the show, but
Right. Basically, for those who are struggling, sometimes it's elderly people or going through a problem with their health or insurance or you name it. We have a group of people who will research and try to help you find the right doctors, the right ways to get to your insurance issues. If you need a wheelchair, someone to pick you up and take you to your doctor. That's the goal of that ministry, to really support those who just can't help themselves or are struggling with something.
see if I remember the acronym correctly. It's the Health, Education, Advocacy Response Team.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember, because I was struggling with it.
He must have practiced that.
Well, we've done a couple of shows with them. So
Yes, you have.
but yeah, that's another. To be honest, I didn't realize until talking to you guys getting ready for the show that fell under the lay ministry umbrella.
It does. And we put that there because it's also a part of our Stephen ministers here
I
at
was
Trinity.
getting ready to say.
And it just made so much sense to put all of them together and work together as a greater team, a larger team of people.
We just threw another
others.
term out there. I got to ask you what that is for people that might not know.
Stephen
what are Stephen
ministry?
ministers? Yep.
Yeah, Stephen ministers are those volunteers who actually help those maybe homebound or are going through a crisis in their life that they just need someone to talk to and pray with them to help them get through the crisis at that moment. You got to remember there's a big congregation. We're not a mega church, as you said, but we are large. And it's impossible for our pastors to actually reach out and meet all these people and help them through times of trouble. So we've created a Stephen ministry team. I think it's been going on for about 20 years now. And that team has grown, and they're out there supporting those who just need help or someone to talk to.
And they're caregivers and care receivers.
Correct.
Right.
Basically what it comes down to,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So if you were to look at everything we've talked about today, as far as this lay ministry, I think lay ministry is one of those ministries that a lot of people don't consciously notice that it's there, but they would definitely notice if it wasn't.
Right, I think we're
Oh,
the
yeah.
backstage of
You're the stage crew.
weekend,
Yep,
Yeah.
of
behind the
those
scenes.
weekend services. Yeah,
Yeah, and so that's it's one of those things. I think it's one of those ministries that a lot of people just kind of take for granted, and they don't. I mean, not intentionally. I don't want to make it sound like it's a bad thing, but you just don't notice it. But it's also a ministry that I think that there's if you got somebody that isn't doesn't like getting on camera, Dave. Hi, Dave. How you doing? You doing all right still? Doesn't like to be the face out in front of everybody else. There's something in lay ministry that they can do.
Absolutely.
Anything else that we haven't talked about before we sign off here that you want to
there's
mention?
several other positions that we have that are really behind the scenes for special times of your life. Like we have a wedding coordinator that helps families get through the whole process of the wedding and the procedures of that. We have a new position, same kind of thing, but for a funeral, to help the family through the procedures and the process for the funerals. And we also have an archivist position that we actually have open right now.
What's
but
the archivist position?
It's to keep the history of the church and document it and keep it in a way that we can display it and have record of the history of the church.
Which is, because Trinity's been around since the 1800s.
Right.
I can't remember, I'm blanking on the exact year right now, off the top of my head, but it's been around for a very long time. And my wife is saying, anybody else want to say it? I'll let you guys read off. She's reminding you there's something else you haven't mentioned yet.
Well, like the
Oh, the
welcome,
welcome-
center.
yeah.
Welcome center.
Yeah.
Yeah, we handle the welcome center.
Don't disappear. He's reading off your sign.
She's moving
The
around.
video slides.
It says video slide sound
church
welcome
service.
center.
Yep.
There's a lot on our lay ministry.
Well, yeah,
There's
that's the other thing.
extremely
If
a
you
lot.
just think about it, because we have the sound booth, and so we've got, we got the, pastors have microphones. Somebody's got to run the sound.
Yep.
We've got in
Soundboard up there.
this soundboard in our congregation. We have the video boards. They have their little sermon slides and like that shows up. And so it's anything. I think what I'd like to encourage people to do is next time you go to church, all right, whether you're here at Trinity, whether you're somewhere else, just sit down and kind of start to take an inventory and pay attention to all the things around you that maybe you hadn't noticed before, that maybe you'd taken for granted, and ask yourself, I wonder how that got there. I wonder how that happened. Because odds are it was somebody doing lay ministry.
Correct.
And if you think about it, if you think about service today, at the 11 o'clock service, how many people you think here were under lay ministry? You look at the choir. That's all. Ryan McAllister. It's all part of it. Ushers. It was so many people here under lay ministry that we don't think about it.
Right.
I guess we take it for granted. They're just here. But
even
it has
when
to
not,
happen.
Like Cindy was saying, even the altar guild that they don't see.
Right.
You're
Right.
not going to see those people doing their job. You're going to see the results of their work, and you're not even going to be aware of it. Oh, look, our theme is purple this week, and it was red last week, or whatever. It's like you might not even consciously notice that. But of course, in our liturgy, there's colors for different times portions of the church year.
And there's special seasons like Easter and Christmas. I mean, think of what happens at Christmas with the trees and the wreaths and the decorations on the balcony and the manger, sitting on the altar. It's a lot that goes into that. And altar guilds, the ones that do that.
So, yay, Cindy!
They're the magicians.
Might need a raise.
Magicians. Yeah, you don't
Cindy
see-
wants a raise, so we're going to put her up on the balcony.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for coming on the show and telling us a little bit about lay ministry. That's one of those that I just think a lot of people just take it for granted. They don't know what it is, but it's an incredibly important ministry. And thank you not just for coming on the show, but thank you for all that you do for the lay ministry. And hey, if you did like this episode, do me a favor. Go ahead and click the like button. That's a thumbs up button right here on the YouTube page. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on this program and all the other programs we have here on the channel. Share our video, this video, any other videos you see here on the channel so other people can benefit from them. We do have a Facebook page here for the channel. It's called Trinity Joppa Channel. You can give us a like on there, and you can get a few little behind-the-scenes tidbits, know what we got coming up, and give us some feedback about what you'd like to see on this show or any of the other shows that we put out there. Thank you very much. Next week, something is happening. This is the part where I always look to my wife. Why do you got to write it? We gave you your own mic this week. Go ahead. What's coming up next week?
Isn't it the Passion Play?
Next week is the Passion Play? Yeah. Next week, we're going to have members of the Passion Play cast come on and talk to us a little bit about what the Passion means to you and what being the play has meant to them and things like that.
Is this big enough?
So, actually, no, we're completely wrong. That's not next week. That's 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks. Next week, we're... I know it's called Trinity Talk Live. Worst kept secret. We don't film these things live.
Yeah.
We are filming the Passion Play episode next week, but it doesn't air for 2 weeks.
That's right. It's tax week.
It's taxes next week. Is going to Ben Lander's coming back on the show because it hasn't been long enough since he's been on the show. It's been like 2 weeks he hasn't been on. So we're going to bring him back. And we're talking about render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, because taxes are due. They're coming up, believe it or not. And so if you haven't filed yet and you're sitting there wondering, well, do I really need to pay my taxes or not? Or can I have a religious exemption based on that scripture? Well, number one, I will say make sure you tune in and watch that episode next week. Number two, I'll tell you you're going to be disappointed by the answer. So that's next week. Next week we're talking about taxes in our Render Under Caesar episode. Then we're talking about the Passion Play. That's correct. And then
We really
the week
need
after,
to remember to get the schedule in front of us before we do.
Yeah, we really need to do that. There's not going to be an episode the Monday after Easter or the Tuesday after Easter because, well, it's Easter and we deserve a break. But then we're actually closing out the month with a really good episode as well. It's our spring cleaning episode. We have a professional organizer, Jennifer Merkel, is going to come on the show, and she's going to give us a few tips about getting organized and doing that spring cleaning frenzy that we all try to do. So, all right. Well, thank you all very much again for coming on. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. Be sure to tune in next week. God bless.
In your word we will follow.
Hey, if you haven't joined our Patreon yet, would you mind giving it your prayerful consideration? Patreon is a way you can support the Trinity Joppa YouTube channel. We've got multiple tiers to choose from, starting as low as $2 per month. Visit www.patreon.com/TrinityJoppa for all the details. Thank you. God bless.